Welcome to another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. Our mission is to bring you discussions on a wide array of topics in the coaching world to grow players on and off the court. You can connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and also reach us directly through email at basketballteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Now, here's your host, Coach Mike Hernandez.
Go. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining us here for another episode, wherever in the world you're listening to us from, whatever platform you're listening to us on. As always, thank you guys so much for the support. Thank you for the kind messages, emails, the things you've left on social media, the questions you've asked. Keep all that coming. Thank you guys so much for that. And thank you for joining us here for this episode. This is kind of a merger of a couple different topics that we've had on this show before, which is kind of fun to be able to merge a couple, kind of mixing the idea of talking about X's and O's, but then also talking about player accountability and how players are held accountable, how players kind of hold each other accountable, and the way that they kind of can regulate or be coached in a way where they are aware of what they need to be doing to be effective on offense and on defense. So kind of a mixture, talking a little bit of X's and O's, and then also where that player accountability fits in as well. So excited to get into this, and very excited to have on my guest here, who is a very busy individual, considering the situation that he finds himself in, which I'm sure he'll talk about here in a little bit. Very happy to be joined by the head women's basketball coach out at Central College. Coach Justin Weiland is joining us today. Coach, really appreciate you being able to spend some time in your busy schedule to talk to us. How are things going?
Yeah, things are great. Very busy, like you said, just trying to get everything done, but day by day. But super excited to kind of carve out some time here, and I'm always down to talk basketball and talk hoops. So I really appreciate you having me on.
Of course, Coach. Let's start with your basketball journey, your coaching journey. Where did the game of basketball take you? Where did your coaching journey take you that ultimately led you to Central College?
Yeah, it's kind of been all over the place. Ever since I was a little kid, just loved the game of basketball. Obviously grew up playing it. Never got the chance to quite play at the collegiate level. I was a late bloomer. Yeah, so started out, I was finishing up my undergraduate degree and had the amazing opportunity to kind of coach some high school basketball and some AAU basketball while I was finishing up, and was super close to just going to law school. I was actually about a week away and decided I didn't want to do more school, and that I wanted to pursue being a collegiate coach just after talking with a lot of college coaches and trying to get our AAU players recruited. And so yeah, it took me out to Ellsworth Community College. Was my first collegiate coaching job in Iowa Falls. Was there for 2 years. Spent 1 year as an assistant and 1 year as an interim head coach, which we'll call that a trial by fire. Being 25 years old, and yeah, it was great. It was just understanding, learning what it all takes at that level, and then took an assistant coaching job up at Bemidji State University, Division II in the Northern Sun. Had an amazing opportunity there. One of the toughest D2 conferences out there. And so just kind of learning again what it takes to be at some of those best schools and what it really truly looks like. And then I got a great opportunity to go to Upper Iowa University in that same conference, another Division II school. Was there for 2 years as an assistant, and ultimately knew I wanted to be a head coach someday. So figured the Division III level might be my best bet. And so I actually ended up taking an assistant coaching job at a Division III school, Grinnell College.
I know.
I could.
The Grinnell system. Yes, the Grinnell. Yeah.
Just to be able to, learn how to recruit without athletic scholarship money. and just get a handle on what that balance provides and the different kind of student athletes that we would be looking at. And then late this summer got an opportunity to take over as head coach at Central College, and be my first true head coaching position. I've had a ton of amazing mentors that I can thank for getting me here. But ultimately just super excited to really get a chance to run my own program and grow Central and kind of put it back on the map. It's been a little bit since we've consistently been at the top of our conference. But that's the ultimate goal for us moving forward. And yeah, it's all happened just because of that silly orange basketball, right?
Yeah, it can take you a lot of places, can't you?
It can. It can.
Let me ask you about what was your thought process as you took this position at Central College. You took it, you were kind of had to be thrown right into it and get started right away. How did you kind of prioritize what needed to get done right away? What was that like first week or two like once you took the position to try and like get your bearings together and set everything up the way you wanted it to be set up?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's gonna sound silly, and maybe I'm crazy or different, but there's, as we all know, 900 things that needed to get done, especially since school is starting in about 3 or 4 days from when I started. But the number one priority and the number one thing that I told our players first and foremost was building a relationship with them. Yes, there was, all of the AT paperwork and all of the camps and all of the recruiting and I think the list goes on and on, the many things that we needed to get done. But to me, ultimately the most important thing was building a relationship with all of our players that were coming back, which I know we'll get into as far as like the accountability and being a player's coach. But to me, the reason why that was so important was for me to come in and establish a culture, and for us to go where we want to go. We've got to have that trust, that communication, and that relationship built up right from day one, because I can have the vision. I can have an idea of where we want to go and where we all want to go. But if the players don't act upon that, then we're not going to get there. And for the players to be pushed and held accountable to the best that we can, we've got to have that relationship built up. I'm the third coach in 3 years, and it's hard for them to trust somebody right off the bat. And so for us to build up that relationship, that was my number one priority. And then outside of that, it was, reaching out with the alumni, reaching out with our community support, getting, obviously a great relationship with the assistant coaches that were here and stayed. And, but yeah, that was the first thing that we needed to get done, was start, building that relationship between every single player on our roster.
And I imagine with your situation in particular, you said being the third coach in 3 years, there probably is that factor of needing to earn that trust in players and staff members or whatever the case may be, wondering like, is this guy here for the long term? Is this guy somebody who's really gonna be part of the long-term process? Is he gonna be one and done or something like that? So like, that was a unique situation you probably found yourself in particular.
Yeah, for sure. Because I'm sure they heard it from the others as well.
Yeah.
And so, I can sit here and tell them, I plan on, I got a 2.5-year-old daughter and 1-year-old daughter, and I'm here for the long haul. But, I gotta show them, right? Like it's going to take some time. We got to get out of this, instant gratification type mentality. And all I can ask and hope for is that over time and over, great meetings and our practices and everything like that. Like we do build that relationship, but yeah, we gotta be about it and not just talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. You touched on this, so I'll ask about the idea of being a player's coach, and specifically the balance that coaches have to strike between kind of being there for their players and the relationship building and everything versus then having to switch and being on them and pushing them and being that coach who's tough on them and in a positive way, of course. And I wanted to talk about how you kind of have struck that balance where you're there for them, and then also at the same time though you gotta turn that switch sometimes and really push them and really be hard on them as well.
Yeah, to me it all just comes back to building that relationship. In the kind of the end all be all. It's yeah, I want to make sure that our players always feel like, regardless of whether they're just, you're not just a basketball player on our team, but off
Mhm.
the court, we care about you just as much, if not more so, as a person. Um, and so starting that from day one, and making sure that they know that and feel that, is kind of where I always like to start, because yeah, like there is a fine line of being their friend. You still want to be their friend, but at the same time you have to be the one to push them to be the best version of themselves, again, on and off the floor. And so I think, to me, it's just about the honesty. It's about being as transparent as you can and letting them know from day one, yeah, like we're here for you, whatever you need. But at the same time, I'm going to push you to where you want to be, whether that's, you want to be a first team all conference player. Great. Well, I'm going to push you as hard as I have to get you to that level. And that means we're going to have to get on you about some things. We're going to have to work harder. We're going to have to, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
maybe put in a little bit more work. And at the end of the day, if that's not where you want to be, then let's revisit it. Right. Because, there's coaches have been out there a lot longer than I have, but I have coached a lot of very, very good, talented players, first team all conference players, second team all conference players, freshmen of the year, newcomers of the year. And so I kind of know I've got a pretty good idea of what that work ethic, what it looks like, what it's going to take to get there. But at the end of the day, it's building that relationship. I tell all my players, like, I can't go hang out with you guys at the dorms, at the apartments, and restaurants and whatnot. Like, the time we get in my office, you guys stopping by, practice, film sessions, on the bus, on the road, and we're eating dinner. Like, those are the times for us to really build that relationship. And I don't care if it's 2 minutes in between class. I don't care if it's, you're having a great day, and you just want to talk about it and hang out. If you're having an awful day and you just need somebody to vent to, that's what we're here for. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm here for. But at the end of the day, we have our standards and we have our expectations, and at the same time, as much as we want to be there for you, we're going to push you to always be at those standards or exceeding those standards. And so I just think, just that upfront, that honesty, that transparency, and just showing them on a daily basis that, yes, we do fully care about you as a basketball player, as part of somebody that's in our program, but more so just as a person. And to me, it's can you just be as genuine as possible? Like, there's I try and always be as genuine as possible, and no cliches, no fakeness, but just real genuine conversations, whether they're about basketball or whether they're not. And then just, again, holding them to those standards and expectations that we as a team have set.
And I think one of the points I just kind of want to emphasize on what you said is like the idea of having those conversations like every single day, right? Like you're
Yep.
kind of there every single day talking to them and you talk about like building that relationship, right? I think a lot of coaches talk about building it, but I also think, keeping it and growing it and maintaining it by every single day,
Yep.
talking to your players, building that relationship, building that trust in them. It's a continual process, and I think that that's kind of one of the things I got out of your answer is that idea of building that relationship and building that trust with your player. That is something that is continually ongoing, and it never
Yes.
stops, and it continues to grow, and it continues to improve and get better, and you can never really think as a coach that you're done with that relationship. It's always something you're striving to grow and improve.
Yep. Yeah, it's never done. I mean, even after graduation,
Sure.
right? Like
Yeah.
that's the whole point is building a lifelong relationship as best as we can. And yeah, it's never done. It really isn't, even if a player, I mean, we had throughout my 8 years at this level, you come across players that just aren't in love with the game anymore, and they stop playing, and we
Hmm.
still try our best. Hey, if you still need us, let us know, right? um and so yeah, it's, to me, it's never done. It's, oh, we've established a relationship, now we can kind of push you to the side and we'll work on somebody else. It's constantly balancing those 15 to 20 to 25 relationships on a daily basis, and just making sure that everyone is, physically, emotionally, just as good as they can be.
Yeah, no, 100%, absolutely agree with you on there, coach. And that kind of shifts kind of well into the topic of accountability, and as we kind of shift into the player accountability with X's and O's, and I want to start with, let's talk about the offensive end first. We'll kind of piece this together, kind of piece by piece here. What is your philosophy? What do you like to run on offense, and where do the players need to be held accountable to make sure that what you're running on offense is being run correctly?
Yeah, so what I like to run is a 5-out motion offense.
Okay.
Been seeing it a lot more as of late, as at all levels, any and all levels. But yeah, with us, there's very little structure. There's very little or very few rules in what we do. And it's honestly, like, my whole philosophy is to unlock and unleash our players on the offensive end, where we're not thinking as much, but we just get to go be basketball players. And so we're trying to spread the floor as best as we can. We're trying to make sure the ball has life, and getting from side to side and making the defense, shift and constantly move. And yeah, a lot of dribble handoffs, a lot of pick and rolls, but at the same time, it's giving our players the ultimate freedom to attack in ways that they might not have ever had before. And our biggest thing is create an advantage and then attack that advantage, whether it's attacking to score for yourself, or whether it's attacking to kind of collapse the defense and get easy dump downs to our bigs, get easy kickouts to our shooters. And so for us, the biggest part of the accountability piece
Hmm.
is, what it comes down to is, we need to be held accountable for our ball movement. It cannot stick. That is number one. The ball can't stick, and so we're held accountable for that. Just our shot selection. We can get so many shots at any point in the shot clock, and so we need to make sure that we're getting good and great shots. So we're held accountable to that. And then it's just understanding where our shots are coming from, and what type of shots you should be taking within the offense. If you're a great 3-point shooter, don't pass up great 3-point looks. If you're a slasher, don't settle for jump shots all the time. Get to the rim, get fouled, see if you can make something happen. And so it's just understanding, where your shots within our offense and on the floor, where those should be coming from, in an individual aspect.
So you talk about the with that offense, right? There's a lot of freedom involved, right?
Yep.
There's a lot of choice, and there's a lot of freedom for players to make the right decisions there.
Mhm.
Um, when you kind of think about uh players being held accountable to doing what it is that they need to do, I'm wondering, are you having those conversations with players where you're talking to them about, hey, we have a lot of freedom in this offense, but I really need you to be looking to do, X and Y, or this is where you really should be looking to attack or exploiting the defense. What are those conversations like where you're trying to let players know this is what you should be looking to do on the offensive end in this offense?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And yeah, we do have those kind of meetings, those kind of sit downs, however you want to, whatever you want to call them. But um what I'm hoping to do, and what I'm likely going to be doing this year is having those kind of individual meetings, whether it's with film, whether it's just a sit down once the season gets started and we kind of have more time on our hands. But each one of our players is going to get kind of an individual player sheet, with kind of their responsibilities on the floor, what we need them to really look for as far as offense, defense, rebounding, things like that. Maybe a suggested shot chart. I've got an amazing software where we can see everybody's shots from the previous year, previous years, as well as kind of where their shots are being taken from this year. And so we'll consistently be looking at that as much as they want to, and we'll talk about kind of, okay, here's where I see your shots coming from, and here's kind of where they are coming from right now.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of using that as a visual aid is like, yeah, see, you get to the rim, you're shooting 65%, you're settling for jump shots, you're settling for all those outside threes where you're shooting 30%. This is why I kind of want you to be able to get to the rim a little bit more, and not saying don't shoot the ball, because I want you to have confidence to shoot the ball,
Yeah.
but more so just like we shouldn't be settling for that all the time. And so yeah, we constantly are having that back and forth, and having whether that's watching film with it, and then also just putting quantifiable goals, whether that's weekly goals, whether that's monthly goals, yearly goals, and so I think you got to have, to me, you got to have all three, right? Short term, medium term, long term goals. But yeah, we're consistently going back and forth with our players, and making sure that they're understanding kind of what we need them to do, and at the same time not taking away that confidence and saying don't ever shoot the ball, don't ever attack the rim, but this is what you do best, let's focus on what you do best, and maybe develop the other aspects of your game in workouts and in practice.
So when you talk about goal setting, like what are examples of kind of what those goals look like in terms of like a short term or a medium or a long term goal?
Yeah. Sometimes it's just as simple as how many shots we want to get up throughout a week. Sometimes it's just practice, and
Mm-hmm.
I like to film practice, and I try and stat every single practice in competitive environments. And so maybe it's just shooting a certain percentage from three. Maybe it's just shooting a certain percentage from the field for a week of practice. For some of our other players, maybe it's a monthly thing, very similar. Like, we want to shoot this percentage from the field. This is what you should be shooting for, from three. And so just constantly giving them something to work towards. Again, we always want to make them realistic and obtainable, because at the end of the day, if we can cross something off of that goal list, that's what keeps the motivation. That's what keeps you moving forward, rather than maybe we have 4, 5, 6 lofty goals, and you only get one. That can sometimes be
Yeah.
a little tough to take at times. And so just consistently having those, again, right, like this. So this all comes back to the relationship is, hey, you're shooting 19% from three right now. How do we build up your confidence? How can we get it to 30, right? What's the number of shots we got to get up? How do we maybe just take higher percentage looks, quantity over the quality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so again, to me, it comes back to being honest and being transparent, and also having that relationship built up, so that we can have those tough talks, because those are tough talks to
Yeah.
have,
Yeah.
right? And so, but to me, it's just taking the time to to be willing to have those conversations with your players, and building goals that are obtainable for them to reach, so that they can continue to be motivated to work, harder and further into the year.
Yeah, you're talking about those tough conversations. I know I've been there where I've done goal setting before, and then players don't reach those goals, or they really
Yeah.
start to struggle with those goals. Like, man, this looked really nice when I mapped these out, but oh, if we're not reaching them now this is a different conversation we got to have.
Right.
And then there's the whole aspect. I'm sure you've been through this before of players getting they'll get frustrated, or if they have a goal in mind, they'll try and maybe like try and force it, or try and force the issue to try and reach this goal. And I think that's always, I think having those goals be things that you can adjust, and things that you
Yep.
can maybe aren't necessarily set in stone, can be super helpful too. Because I've seen players in the past really try and really forced some the issue sometimes in order to try and make a goal that they had set in their mind, and sometimes that it
Yeah.
wasn't the best for the team.
Exactly. And that's the other part of it, is
Hmm.
kind of what I touched on beforehand, just with myself, is we as a team, as a program, like, we're really trying to get away from like that instant gratification,
Yeah.
and we just really
Yeah.
need to continue to understand that it's a day by day process. And yeah, we have these goals set out, and it's not going to happen overnight. Like, it's okay, but that it might not happen the next day. But did you get better today? Did you get 1% better today? That means you're better than you were the previous day. And if we can have that mentality and understand that, as long as we continue to get better day by
Yeah.
day, that's all that matters, right? And we'll get to the ultimate goal. And hopefully we get to the ultimate goal. But even if we don't get to the ultimate goal, that's okay. Did you still get better? It's
Hmm.
not always a failure. You just have to look at, what we've done as a whole. And if we're still getting better, that's what matters, right?
Yeah.
So yes, we want to hit every single one of our goals. But yeah, sometimes some of them might be a little bit loftier. Yes, we're going to try our best to make them all obtainable, but at the end of the day, your success isn't just based off of whether you hit a goal or not. The failure is thinking that the failure comes in thinking that you're only good if you hit your goal,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's just kind of getting that mentality of, okay, we got better. That is what matters. How do we continue to do that on a weekly, on a daily, on a monthly, yearly basis? Because that is the end goal, right?
Hmm. Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, no, I really agree. I really like that answer, Coach. Let's talk about that on the defensive end, because I imagine obviously things have to be a little more structured, right? There's a little bit more in place in terms of what's happening on the defensive end. So what do you like to run on defense, and where again does that accountability aspect really come in, so that your defense is running the way that you want it to?
Yeah. Yeah, we like to run man to man.
Hmm.
I think there's a time and place for zone, whether we're trying to change the pace of the game, throw a team out of rhythm. But we'll be about 99% man to man. Yeah, we kind of have our principles. I would say it's a pack line hybrid
Okay.
um, type of defensive principles. But yeah, we'll put a ton of pressure on the ball. We're going to be in the gaps. Our biggest thing is we're not going to allow people to get into the paint. That's where we get hurt. That's where teams get hurt. And so we're going to do everything we can to kind of pack the paint as best as we can. Um, at the end of the day, where we are going to be held most accountable are one is communication.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
know
I'm sure that's
every
huge.
coach, yeah, every coach from kindergarten through professional basketball is going to tell you the same thing, that we've got to be communicating. It just makes our lives so much easier. We know where we should be, we know where we should be going. So communication is the number one thing. And then, yeah, the second part is as a team, are we controlling where the team is going as far as, are we not allowing them to get in the paint? For us, it's no paint, no open looks, and no silly fouls. And then no second chances. So are we controlling, I call them, knowing your nose, KNOW, your NOSs.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so are we being held, we're going to be held accountable for those things. And then the third thing, for the biggest part of accountability for us, the last thing is just finishing every single possession on the defensive end, whether that's getting a rebound, whether it's getting them to turn the ball over, contested shots. Like, we're going to contest some shots, and there's going to be a few that go in, but as long as we contest and finish the play, those are kind of the biggest areas that we're going to be held accountable. And then, there's a million other things where, we'll be held accountable on the defensive end. But for us as a team, that's kind of where it starts for us.
And with okay, so I'm going to jump ahead a little bit because I'm always really fascinated on the defensive end in
Yeah.
particular about especially communication, right? I mean, we all talk about, especially on the defensive end, communication, and for a defense to work, you have all these players who have to essentially work as one while being a team. It requires everybody on the defensive end, and
Yep.
I'm really curious about how players are holding each other accountable to that. How players know what not only are they responsible for and maybe own up to it if they make a mistake or if something goes awry and they own up to that and work on it, but also how they're holding each other accountable and letting each other know, if something's wrong, or if they weren't helping on the weak side, or if they weren't talking, or something goes wrong on that end. So I want to talk in general about what does the process of teaching players holding each other accountable kind of look like for you, and how you've gone about teaching that?
Yeah, for us, it starts with just that really player accountability off the bat. That is actually where we want to be as a team. I
Mm-hmm.
do not want this to be a coach-led program. I want it to be a player-led program. And so we've tried to start from day one, is if we can become a player-led program, and you all are the ones holding each other accountable and holding yourselves accountable rather than me, we're going to be better for it. To me, the best teams, the ones that win the most, the ones that win most consistently, are player-led programs. And so just understanding that it's still a two-way street, especially player to player.
Mm-hmm.
Accountability is like, we have to learn what to say, how to say it, the
Yeah.
tone to say it,
Yep.
the timing, right? So a lot of those are the big things on the one end, and then the second end is um, understanding that it is not a personal attack on you. Um, we need to be able to take constructive criticism, not just from coaches, but from our teammates, and taking the message at for what it's worth, like taking the message as a whole. And maybe, yeah, sometimes in the heat of the battle it might come off as a little strong or a little attacky, but listen to the message, right? And we're just trying to push you and push you to be better, and take, hey, shoot, you're right, I didn't rotate, I know that, you're telling me again, yep, that's on me, right? And it's hard to put into words kind of how we teach that, other than we just have to rep it every single day and start to understand that we are going to mess up, and that it is okay, but we have to learn from our mistakes and not make the same mistake over and over again. And that we're not chasing perfection, but what we're chasing is the next play, that next play mentality. And so that's one of the biggest things I've been telling and talking with our players is for us to, especially on the defensive end, with the communication, and then and starting, it's shell drill, right? Like, it might be boring. It might be it might seem like a third, fourth, fifth grade drill, but for us to understand where we each need to be individually um, on the defensive end, and learn that communication piece. It might start with the shell drill, but yeah, it's tough. It's tough to build a player-led program, but to me, it's repetitions. It's every single one of our players buying into that mentality of we're chasing the next play mentality rather than chasing perfection. And we have to be able to take constructive criticism from each of our players, because we're all going to mess up. You're going to miss a box out. You're going to miss a rotation on the weak side. You're going to let somebody straight line drive to the rim. Like, it's going to happen. What is our response to that happening? And to me, that's how we have to grow together as a team and have that kind of closeness. So again, we can have those tough conversations in the heat of the moment, in the heat of the battle, to take the message for what it's worth, and then not make the same mistake again.
And I think something that you mentioned that was really important was the way that message is sent. And I think having that strength of a relationship with your players where they trust each other, because I think if that trust isn't there and a player says something to another about why they didn't do something, man, if that relationship isn't built, that can get real ugly, like real quick. Because I've seen it, and I've been around it, and you can just kind of tell right away, like, oh, okay, whether it's my program or another program, like, okay, they definitely don't trust each other on the court by the way they responded to each other when something went wrong, or when a player who makes a mistake, and I'm sure we've all seen that before. A player makes a mistake, and instead of owning up to that mistake, they talk about what somebody else didn't do, which maybe they then blame as the reason why that mistake then happened, and then it's like, uh-oh, like, that's tough. And I think to the kind of the overall point that we talked about, like, if you build that team chemistry and you're constantly building communication and building that and teaching, just even teaching what to say, right, when players make mistakes, and how you say, like, how you own up to it right away is huge, because if it's not there, I think it gets exposed at the worst of times in a game if it hasn't been established already.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly it. It gets exacerbated when you're in the heat of the battle, right? So that's our biggest thing. It's repetition of that talking and that communication in practice, because we're going to mess up in practice. We should be messing up more in practice than in the games. Hopefully, that's the time for us to make mistakes and to iron out those mistakes. And so, yeah, for us, it's the same thing as building the relationship with the coaches. You have to build those relationships with the players, player to player. And again, I'm not naive. I don't think every single player on our team is going to be best friends, nor do I need them to be. But we need to respect every single person on our team, and we need to have each other's backs. Every single person's backs on our team. And those are the only two things that matter. To us, like, we're going to be together, we're going to be close. And if we can have those tough conversations, great. But yeah, it's always tone, and is that relationship built up enough where you can kind of have those tough conversations in the heat of the moment and take it for what it's worth. Because whether it's a coach or whether it's a player, we need to be able to take that constructive criticism in the right ways.
So you mentioned, which is a perfect segue, about, practice. And I agree with you, right? Practice is where mistakes need to happen, right? You need to be making mistakes. You got to be pushing yourself to the point where mistakes are being made. So when you're doing your drills or running through whatever you're running through in practice, when those mistakes inevitably occur, what do you as a coach do at that point? Are you making a quick coach correction? Are you blowing the whistle? Are you pulling the players aside and letting them know what happened? What's kind of the process after a mistake has been made in practice to where you kind of go from there?
Yeah. To me, it just kind of depends on what we're doing. If we're in a drill, and maybe we're split up between a couple different courts. My whole thing with practice is I want to make sure there's a flow to practice. can't stand when the whistle's being blown every 10, 15, 20 seconds. And then a coach is talking
Kind of
for
stop start.
5 minutes, and then we go, and then we run a play, and then it stops for another 5 minutes. Like, it drives me bonkers. So it just kind of depends. I would say a lot of times if we're doing a drill, my whole thing with drills is I'll wait and see if I kind of see it multiple times with a couple different players. If it's one individual, and I kind of see them doing the same thing over and over, and it's not what it's maybe not the correct way, or it's not exactly what we're looking for, I think there's a couple different things that we can do. It might be stopping the drill and explaining to everybody what we do want this to look like. It might just be pulling them over to the side and showing them on the side while everybody is also continuing to do the drill. But if we're playing 5-on-5 and it's live, I might just pull somebody over to the side and just have that conversation with them. To me, there's no reason to get on and get on one individual and kind of call them out, or berate them in front of everybody else. Like, one, I just don't think anybody learns anything from yelling or screaming. But just having that good one-on-one conversation with them. And to me, my whole thing that I've, been pretty open and honest with our players about is repetition is not punishment. So if you do something and you do it wrong, I might have you skip the line and come right back and do it again. And then I might have you do it again. And then I might have you do it again,
Mm-hmm.
because we're trying to build good habits. And the only way to do that is by getting the repetition and doing it the right way every single time. And so don't look at it as a punishment, but look at it as we're building those good habits. And so, yeah, repetition is not punishment is huge for us. It's just whether or not we, pull them off to the side, whether it's, like I said, we've seen a couple different players doing it, and just kind of, hey, we're going to stop the drill here for 10 seconds, show you the right way to do it, understand that we need to do it right every single time. Because here's what I don't want to happen. I don't want to just let it go. And then we get to a game, or we get to, scrimmaging, and then they do it the wrong way. And then I stop practicing, get on everybody because we're doing it the wrong way. Well, then they look at me, coach, and they go, well, you didn't stop us before, so how are we supposed to do it right?
Yeah, it's like a mixed message sort of thing.
Exactly. So, like, let's be held accountable right off the bat. Let's do it. Let's learn it the right way. Let's rep it the right way every single time. But yeah, so whether that's just a conversation on the side while everyone else is continuing to go on, maybe that's stopping a drill and showing everyone the right way, or what we want it to look like. And then, yeah, on occasion, if there's a great teaching moment where we're playing 5-on-5, or we're live, or whatever the case may be, and we got to stop it, to just show everybody. Maybe sometimes I stop it because it's a great thing. We've been working on ball movement, and the ball touched 5 different sides, and I'm just going to stop it and applaud everybody. Right there are positive things to that too. But
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it just kind of depends on what we're doing at that moment. But to me, it's always just got to remember, we're not punishing you by doing it multiple times. I just want you to do it right, so that we build good habits moving forward.
And I've been on that end of being that coach before, who like has blown the whistle when mistakes happen. And man, enough in mixed practice, I feel like, come to a grinding halt. And the body language of players, because they know the whistle's coming, you can just
Yep.
see like oh boy, or they make a mistake, and because they know I'm going to blow the whistle, or they know I'm going to say something, like the second they make a mistake, you can just tell right away. They're like, all right, here we go again.
Yep.
Like, I know it, and it's
Yep.
like, man, like the whole mood of practice is just completely gone downhill, because
Yep.
players then don't feel like they can make mistakes. Almost, if they feel like they're going to get, they're not going to be able to practice because they're going to
Yep.
constantly being talked to, right? Or they're going to be,
Yep.
constantly redirected or talked to. And so I think that idea of just like, maybe just pulling them to the side, or having them do repetitions a little bit till they get it right. But I think it's the way you almost like frame those mistakes, or you frame the
Yep.
way and the way you approach it, I think is a huge effect. And it sounds like just from what it is you say, like the players know like they need to be making mistakes, and like it's not the end of the world, and like life goes on, and
Yeah.
things are going to be just okay if they make it. They'll still be okay if they make them.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say all the time to our players, like, or to our coaches and to our players, like,
Yeah.
I'm here to build your confidence up. So like, if you make a mistake in a game, I don't need you like looking over to me on the sidelines and being like, what did I do something wrong? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like, yeah, they get conditioned like you turn the ball over, or you take a silly shot or a poor shot, and we blow the whistle and we talk about it. Like, I don't want that to happen. I just want there to be a flow to the game. Like, we're going to turn the ball over. We're going to take
Hmm.
some, poor shots, and we're going to make mistakes. Again, we're not chasing perfection. What we're chasing is just a next play, that next play mentality. And so, yeah, we're going to turn the ball over. We're going to miss shots. Like, that's okay. Just go make something happen on the next play. And so, yeah, I'm just trying to build as much confidence as we can, with kind of that mentality of, yes, like, let's make the mistakes now, let's correct them, let's build those good habits versus those bad habits, and try and cut down as much as we can. But yeah, just gotta, it's tough. It's tough to uncondition those players,
Yeah.
if that's kind of what they've been through for a while.
Yeah, yeah, it pays dividends when you do it, and I think like just because, and I know that you'd agree with that, right? Like just because it is
Yeah.
time consuming or difficult, like it's so worth it though. And then
Right.
once you do it, yeah, for sure, like yeah, absolutely, pays dividends in the end.
Yep.
You kind of touched on the idea of communication, and I think every coach wants their team to communicate more, communicate better, and I think communication is such a big facet in holding each other accountable. So is there, in your experience, some secret method or some secret way that communication can be improved, or things that you do to get players talking more and communicating more?
um I don't, I mean, there hasn't been anything, I'm not, reinventing the wheel here. I think it's just something that we just got to talk about and key in on a day-to-day basis. And for me, it starts more so off the floor than on the floor. Because everything that I try and teach them with communication just goes back to the real life. It's and at our level, and what majority of the players, like, we're not going pro, right? We're not going to the league. And so how do I teach you things and values and things and skills that you can take with you once we get into the real life? If you're not communicating at your job, what happens?
Mm,
Probably not a lot of good things. If your boss is trying to get a hold of you, or your coworkers are trying to get a hold of you, and there's everything so collaborative in the real world today. If you're not able to be communicating with those people, nothing good is going to come of it.
yeah.
And so, just keying in on those keying in on communicating on a day-to-day basis, whether it's in a specific drill, whether it's defense, offense, whether it's, hey, we need to get orders for you all for lunch because we're getting on the bus at 12, and I need it in a timely manner. Even if you're in class, like, I get it, like, but can we maybe get back to in 2 hours, 3 hours? Like, we know you have access to email, we know you have access to your phone. And so I think just keying in on it on a day-to-day basis, and making sure that it is a big part of your program, your core values. We don't have communication as one of our core values, but we have dependability as one of our core values.
Yeah.
And to me, um communication gets thrown in there. And I just think, with us putting that as, like, I tell our players, communication is the end all be all. Like, if we want to go where we want to go, and we want to be as good as we can be, it's all going to start with communication. So making them just aware, and making them understand that, communication just has to be at the forefront, of our minds. that's just kind of how I've always been. And I don't think there's any secrets that I've used, but just making sure that our players and our coaches and everybody involved with our program is just always on the same page, and that we got to make everybody's lives easier. And the way we do that is with communication.
It's kind of like the idea of like you have these goals or these things that you focus on as a program, and it's almost like for these things to get accomplished, we have to be communicating. It's like it is the key for all of these things
Yep.
to be taking place. Like we can't do this without communicating. So being able to talk, being able to communicate, being able to work together like plays into like every single thing you're trying to accomplish as a program. And so it's kind of like baked into everything, it sort of seems.
Yep. The communication has a prong into every single aspect of our program. And so, we just got to keep talking about it. That's the most, and the different ways to communicate and how to communicate and the timing of communication. And just, there's so many different aspects of communication as a whole, but just making sure that we, key in on it every single day. And there's a lot of different ways to communicate as well, right? Just making sure that it's hit on every single day and prioritized in a specific way, and I think is the best way that we can go about it.
For sure. And wow, I can't believe how quick this time has flown by. Already 50 minutes in here. So I want to touch on a couple things here before you hit this concluding part. And I want to circle back to something on the offensive end. And you talked about players, looking for their the shot or finding the shot or the opportunity that's best for them. And I wanted to ask you about how much charting do you do, whether it's in a game or otherwise, about a player? What are you taking stats down on a lot of things when you have those conversations with your players on the offensive end? Or are you having them, look at stats? Are you breaking down like stats or film or things like that? How do you kind of make sure that players kind of understand the message of like what they need to be doing on offense? Is how much does like the analytics side go into those conversations?
No, I use analytics as much as I can. Now I'm not going to base every single answer and every thought and everything off of analytics, because I don't think it paints the whole picture, but I think it helps paint a very good picture. I stat every single practice. Anything we do competitive, I'd like to stat, whether it's our field goals, field goals attempted, field goal percentage, 3 points, percentage, assists, turnovers, rebounding, O-boards, steals, blocks, everything. Like I'm statting all of that. Our points per possession as a team, our points per possession individually. Because at the end of the day, there are a lot of hard conversations. Basketball, we get to play five players at once, and I would say the best teams are probably going 8-9 deep, and there's a lot of people that always want more playing time. And so those tough conversations come about, and I always want to have something tangible and some, not evidence, but I need to have tangible resources that if you're coming in and you're asking what we need you to get better at, I can tell you, hey, the last 2 weeks in practice, you've turned the ball over 13 times. I need you to take care of the ball. Or, hey, you're shooting 7 for 39 from 3. I need you to up that 3-point percentage, right? So I never want to leave our players in the dark as far as, when it comes to playing time. But at the same time, it is like for our, top 8, top 9, top 10, how do we become more efficient? And to me, it's our stats in practice. It's our stats from games. It's our shot charts. Like I said, I personally don't have to track, where our shots are coming from. I luckily have a software that I purchased that does it for me. But Synergy does an amazing breakdown of all the stats and all those analytics. And so I will take the time to look at those. And if our players are interested in it or want to know more, have a more in-depth conversation about that, it's all right there. Like we have everything we need at our fingertips nowadays. And so, if they're interested in knowing more, hey, we get it to the third or the fourth side, we're shooting 65% from the field as a team versus on the first or second side, we're shooting about 32%. What does that tell you? Maybe we need to get the ball to more sides. Hey, every time you come off of a ball screen going to your right, you're going to pull up and you're shooting 30%. But if you get to the rim, you're shooting 60%. What, how do we work on developing some more moves, whether it's a crossover, or maybe we snake the ball screen, maybe it's a hesitation and go. Like, how do we grow your game to keep continuing you to get to the rim? So long story short, or long-winded answer is I try to stat and look at all of it and just use whatever we can to grow our team and our individuals to just be more efficient. That is, at the end of the day, we just want to be more efficient. We want to get higher percentage shots and as much as we can, right?
Yeah, and it's, man, I was writing some of this stuff down now. I'm like, you got it down though. That's scientific, that's really, and I think that when you have that, that trust that you talked about, building that trust in your players where they trust you, and then those tough conversations you have with them, and you're pulling out stats like that, and you're getting real specific to them.
Yep.
Like that really, that could be so eye-opening to players, and not that your players, I don't think, like, won't trust you with what you say, but when you have that stat sheet and you're going deep into the analytics with them, it's like, oh, okay, like all right, like, you can't argue with this. This is exactly what it says here, sort of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And to me, that's how we become as accountable as we can. Like, I'm doing my job and I'm looking at every aspect, and I'm not just telling you something on a whim. Like, I look, hey, we've stat at practice for the last 3 weeks, and your percentages just aren't there. I need them to be here. And to me, you can take that for what it's worth. Like, that, to me, it means get in the gym, get more reps. To me, it's maybe take better shots. To me, it's, I got to get shots in better places. I'm not shooting the ball quite where I should be taking my shots from. I mean, there's a million different ways you go, but at the end of the day, like, we just have to we have to hold ourselves accountable and understand that it's, hopefully coach just isn't making this up, but it's all right here for you. And I'll take the time to look at all of it. And again, I'm not just going to leave you in the dark. Like, I'm going to have specific things for you to work on. And then it's just understanding, like, just because you're working on your craft and working on those specific things doesn't mean it's always going to lead to more playing time, but I can promise you it's going to lead to you having a better chance at getting more playing time.
And players can look at that, know exactly, like, what it is they need to work on, or what it is they need to be doing, or there's no, like, secret, right? You're not going to be taking away opportunities from players just because on a whim. It's like, this is what I need, and once you show consistently you can do that, then, like, this is what will end up happening as a result of that, sort of thing.
Exactly.
So yeah, before we hit our concluding segment, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this. So I'm going to ask about how you, as a coach, hold yourself accountable to the standards that you set for yourself. What is it like for you as a coach to make sure that you are exhibiting the same level of accountability that you expect out of your players?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, right? One of the things that I've been preaching to just our coaching staff in general is we have to lead by example. Right. So we have to make sure that we're putting in just as much, if not 10 times more work than they are. If we want players that want to get in the gym and get individual workouts in, we got to be there. Like, if they want to take the time to get better, we got to be there. I know that we are busy and we have crazy things going on, but we have to take the time, because one, that's how we continue to build our relationship. That's how we continue to coach them and make them get better. We can't have bad days, or at least we can't show that we're having bad days. Obviously we're humans. We are going to have bad days. But at the end of the day, when we step on the floor and we're in between those lines for, 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours, we got to just let it be. And we got to be at practice, and we got to coach them, to the best of our abilities, as best as we can. To me, I've told this to multiple, of our players, and I want our players to take all of the glory and the wins, and I will take all of the accountability for the losses.
Okay. I like that.
Because at the end of the day, that's the truth. If we lose, I probably didn't put us in the right position. Maybe we didn't have the right scheme. Maybe I didn't call the right plays. Maybe I messed up on timeouts, or I didn't sub when we needed to. I'll take all of that, right? I don't need the glory, but I'll take all of the accountability on the losses. Because at the end of the day, I know they're gonna leave it all out there on the floor, and they're the ones that are gonna truly make it happen. And so I think just, again, being honest and being real with our players, and making sure that they know, right, like that we're in the office working.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a game film junkie, right? Like I'm always watching game film,
Yeah, me too.
scouting opponents. And so making sure that they know that, we are giving you a great scout, and now it's on you to kind of focus and prepare for those. But yeah, I mean, it really is. It's just a lead by example, and in all of the aspects of our program. If I'm telling you that we need to communicate, and then I turn around and don't tell you that we have a recruit on campus this day, or that practice was changed, or that we're doing this at this time, like if I'm not doing the communicating and leading by example, how can I expect them to do the same? And so just embodying all of those core values of our program, myself and as a staff, to me, that's the best way to go about doing that, is leading by example.
Yeah, no, it's that's great. And like you said, right, it always starts with you, right?
Yep.
You gotta be the one who's holding yourself to the highest level of accountability before
Yep.
you can ask anything of your players. No, that's phenomenal, Coach. Wow, that's crazy that an hour's already flown by. So, wow. To wrap up, Coach, there's a couple of questions I ask every guest. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with this first one, which is thinking back on your coaching career. What is a
Mhm.
moment from your coaching career that you think others listening would be able to learn from?
Ooh, there's a lot of them. Let me think. I would say not so much a specific moment,
Okay.
but just a lot of specific moments of not trying to be the smartest person in the room or outsmart somebody. And what I mean by that is, just continue as you go about your coaching career, whatever level that you're at. Make sure that you focus on the process of building a foundation. And rather than trying to be the smartest coach, and game plan a perfect game plan, and thinking of the greatest offense in the world, or the greatest defense in the world, just focus on the fundamentals and the principles and the foundation that your players need. Because I think for me, for a lot of my young and early coaching career, I was always trying to think of the next best drill, or the next great
Hmm.
offense, or the next best quick hitter, rather than just focusing on, hey, do these players know how to get to 2 feet? Do these players know how to use a jab step? Do they know how to use a shot fake without traveling? And things like that. Like basketball in its most purest form is such a simple game. And so rather than trying to get to the end and being the next great inventor, just focus on those foundation, focus on the foundation, focus on the principles, and make sure that your players have something um, to go off of in the beginning, right? Hopefully that makes sense. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like your players have to have those foundational pieces. They have to have the principles, and all of that before all of the freedom can come, right? Like I
Hmm.
and so for the longest time, that was I struggled with that, right? I was always trying to think of the next great offense or the next great defense, rather than just working with my players, and developing their skills to the game, and developing their skills and their IQ for the game. And so yes, please learn from that.
That's awesome. Appreciate you sharing that, Coach. Thank you. To
Yeah.
wrap up, Coach, I give every guest kind of what I call 60-second soapbox, but I'm not going to time you, so don't worry if you go over 60 seconds. But it's your platform to kind of get out like a final thought, a final message, a closing idea, just something that you want to leave the listeners with, and you're welcome to take it any direction that you wish. So I'm just going to kind of open up the floor and just kind of give it to you, Coach, and let you take it from here.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm a very big opponent, big believer in just finding the perfect fit as far as the listeners are concerned, whether you're a high school coach, an AAU coach, a collegiate coach, maybe you're a player, in the game, find your perfect fit. I'll be honest, like I recruit very differently. And whether I lose some players because of it, that's okay, but I try and be as genuine as possible. I try and make sure that we're selling things in our program and at our school that are truly and genuinely there. So players, if you're a player, ask the hard questions, make sure you do your research. If you're a collegiate coach, please don't sell something that's not there. College is a lot of money. It breaks my heart that there's 2,000 some odd kids in the transfer portal, right? We got to be making sure that we're finding the perfect fit for these kids. If you're a high school coach, make sure that AAU coach, help your players out. Not everyone's going to be a Division I player. Not everyone's going to be a Division II player. Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA, JUCO, all of the different divisions is great basketball. So just remember that it is about the kids. It is not about you or your reputation. Just make sure we're putting kids in the perfect spot where they are going to succeed on the court and off of the court, because that is the ultimate goal, right? Is to set these men and women up for as much success as possible outside of graduation. And so to me, just help as much as you can.
Love it. That's a great message. I think just the idea of help, right? Be an advocate for your players, help guide them along the way, because I think especially for us who have a lot of experience coaching, regardless of what the level is, like we have the knowledge, like we kind of know how this works. We know how this does, but our players don't. Our players don't have that roadmap. This is their first time going through all this. And I think kind of like to your point, we owe it to them to share that knowledge and share our knowledge to help them through this journey, wherever it takes them, so that they're prepared for wherever the game is going to end up being and what happens after the game as well. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And Coach, this is great. I'm gonna have to have you on at some point later down the road here, because I mean that flew by, and there's definitely more that I'd love to talk to you about. But thank you for coming on, talking about accountability, talking about your program, talking about jumping in to Central College right away, and all the other stuff that we touched on. So best of luck. I know it's going to be a whirlwind of a year for you, but I wish you all the best and all the success going forward. And I look forward to following that journey, Coach. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate it.
Thank you all for listening. This was another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. We will see you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. Make sure to connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, or reach us directly through email at basketballteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you next time.